Hey everyone! Today we're diving into something that's super important for your heart health, but, well, it's probably not on your radar. We are talking all about lipoprotein A. So you get your blood work back, right? You scan right for that LDL, the bad cholesterol, and you figure, okay, I'm good. But what if I told you there's a stealth risk factor, a real invisible threat, that most standard tests don't even look for? All right, so to really get our heads around this hidden risk, we gotta take one tiny step back. We need to ask a basic question. How in the world do fats, like cholesterol, even get around in our blood?
I mean, think about it, right? Our blood is mostly water. Fats are oil. And oil and water, they just don't mix. So for fats to get anywhere, they need a ride. And that ride is called a lipoprotein. It's basically a little taxi, a transport vehicle that wraps up the cholesterol and other fats so they can cruise through your bloodstream. And you know the two most famous of these taxis already. You've got your HDL, the good guy, the one that cleans things up, and you've got your LDL, the bad guy, the one that can cause plaque. That's the story we all know, but, and this is a big but, it is not the whole story. Okay, so now it's time to meet the real star of our show today. This is a particle that takes that bad cholesterol vehicle and turns it into a supervillain. This troublemaker is lipoprotein A, and you'll often see it written as Lp(a). Now, at its heart, it is an LDL particle, our classic bad cholesterol. But it has this extra super sticky protein chain bolted onto it. And that one little addition changes everything. It's not just a taxi anymore. It's more like an armored, sticky tank. And it's far, far more dangerous. So you're probably asking what makes it so awful? Well, Lpa wages war on your cardiovascular system in 3 different ways at once. First, because it's so sticky, it loves to burrow into your artery walls, which speeds up plaque buildup. Second, its structure looks a lot like the proteins that help our blood clot, so it raises the risk of forming dangerous clots. And third, it just fuels inflammation inside your blood vessels. It really is a triple threat. And here is the part that's, well, it's really concerning. High Lpa is what we call a direct and independent risk factor. That means it causes heart disease all by itself, no matter what your other cholesterol numbers look like. And here's the kicker. For most of us, our level is baked into our DNA. It's genetic. This is why it's a huge cause of heart attacks and strokes in young people, sometimes hitting them before they even turn 40. Okay, quick timeout for a very important point of confusion. Do not mix up lipoprotein A, that's our bad guy, with apolipoprotein A. I know they sound almost the same, but they are complete opposites. Apolipoprotein A, or ApoA, is a good guy. It's a protein on your good HDL cholesterol. Lpa is the one we're worried about today. Got it? Good. All right, so since we know Lpa is mostly genetic, you might be thinking, well, I guess there's nothing I can do about it. But not so fast. It turns out some things can actually make it worse, and the answers are probably not what you'd expect. Here's a question for you. For decades, what have we been told? Cut the fat, right? Especially saturated fat. It's the golden rule for a healthy heart. But when we're talking specifically about Lpa, is that actually the best advice? And this is where things get really wild, and honestly, a bit counterintuitive. Check this out. Studies have shown that diets that are very low in saturated fat, we're talking less than 6% of your calories, can make your Lpa levels go up. The same thing happens with high-carb diets. They can jack up your Lpa by 15 to 25%. For a lot of people, this just completely flips the script on what we thought was healthy.
And it's not just about what you eat. Other things can push your Lpa up too. Stuff like an underactive thyroid, going through menopause, or even chronic kidney disease. During pregnancy, levels can actually double for a while. And get this, statins, the #1 cholesterol-lowering drug on the planet, can actually raise your Lpa a little bit, by about 6 or 7%.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem, we know what this particle is, and we know some surprising things that can make it worse. So the big question is, what can we actually do about it? Let's get into the solutions that are backed by research.
First up, let's talk about diet. Now, based on what we just saw, it's no surprise that a lower carbohydrate diet can actually help. Some studies show it can bring Lpa down by around 15%. The real key here seems to be finding a balance and avoiding those extremes. So instead of a super low-fat diet, you might aim for getting about 25 to 35% of your calories from fat, and just make sure they're quality fats from sources like flaxseed oil. But okay, beyond diet, what's the single most powerful nutritional weapon we have in the fight against high Lpa? It turns out it's a pretty simple B vitamin, niacin, also known as vitamin B3. So how powerful are we talking? Well, in one major study, taking niacin dropped LPA levels by, wait for it, a whopping 35% over just 6 months. I mean, that is a huge reduction that could seriously lower someone's overall risk. Let's put this head to head so it's crystal clear. Take a look at this. A statin drug, right? It's amazing at lowering your LDL, your bad cholesterol, no question. But it does basically nothing for your LPA, and as we said, might even nudge it up. Niacin, on the other hand, it hammers your LPA and gives a big boost to your HDL, your good cholesterol. They just play two completely different games. Now, for people with sky-high levels or who are at extreme risk, there are some more heavy-duty medical options. You've got things like PCSK9 inhibitors. These are injectable drugs that knock down both LDL and LPA. And for the most severe cases, there's a procedure called lipoprotein apheresis. Think of it like dialysis, but for cholesterol. It literally filters the LPA right out of your blood and can slash it by over 70%. All right, we have covered a ton of ground. So after all that, what's the bottom line? What do you really need to take away from all this? Let's boil it all down into a super clear action plan. Okay, here are the absolute must-knows. First, LPA is a big deal. It's a genetic risk factor that's arguably worse than LDL. Second, that conventional wisdom about super low-fat diets, it might actually backfire for this specific particle. Third, a balanced fat, lower-carb diet seems to be a much better strategy. And finally, don't forget about niacin. It's an incredibly powerful tool for getting those numbers down. Look, at the end of the day, knowledge really is power. Most doctors don't routinely check for LPA, but now you know why it matters. Now you know to ask about it. So the real question I want to leave you with is this. Now that you know about this hidden risk, what's that next conversation with your doctor going to sound like? Hopefully, you're feeling ready to take control and get the full picture of your heart health. Thanks so much for tuning in.